Hoping that I can make this be done in 2 videos. Y'all hope I can too? Chapter 34. The weather holds that April turns into May. It's not until I look at the calendar on my phone that I realize I'm not had a period for months. They were all up in the air and after the miscarriage, but surely I should have had one by now. It could be the stress of the last few weeks, and I don't hope as I sneak out to Boost to buy a pregnancy test. When I get back, I call for Jamie and he follows me into the bathroom. His eyebrows raised questioningly, a hopeful expression on his face. And then we're hovering over the little white stick as the pale blue lines become a cross. Positive. Jamie's eyes light up as he glances at me, and with a cry of joy, he picks me up and whirls me around, and I laugh, catching my heel on the bathroom door. Over the next few days, I escaped from being wildly, desperately happy to being anxious and sad. I had no choice but to resign from my job. I write a letter to faculty explaining that my circumstances have changed and I feel I am no longer able to teach. I tell her I have a criminal record now, that I lied about my qualifications to get on the teaching course. I can't bear to think about how it would look for the school when the news gets out, as it surely will when the case comes to court. I can imagine the newspapers will be all over it. I avoid calls from my teaching assistant, Carl, not able to face talking to her, preferring to hide away from it all, knowing I can't run away. Not this time. Hannah made reference to my deceit only once, the day Jamie and I found about the baby. She studied me coldly as we were standing in the garden, near the coach house. Felix was rolling around in the grass, enjoying the sunshine. And I had my hands on my tummy, unable to stop the smell spreading across my face every time I thought about the baby. We call it Peanut as we convinced that's how big it is, although we really don't have a clue. We decided to keep the news to ourselves for now until we are past the 12-week mark. So Hannah knew nothing about it, as she said quietly, but a stillness that I've never seen before. You better never hurt him again. It had shocked me. I met her gaze. It was challenging, confrontational, territorial. I won't, I said firmly, before walking away from her. I am now restless as Katie. Both of us wafting in and out of our rooms without purpose. Sometimes Hannah and Flex join us, usually when Flex is home from school and she's finished for the day at the estate agents where she works. Not that Hannah ever talks to me. I sense she only comes over because she wants a babysitter for her son. So I spend my time with Felix while Hannah seeks out Katie. The two of them are always together, heads bent toward each other, in the conservatory or walking around the garden, deep in discussion or heading toward the coach house. Felix usually forgot it. I'm sure they're talking about me. On the odd occasion, I found her in the kitchen with Jamie, chatting over a cup of tea. Her face close up when I come in, as though she's a robot who runs out of batteries. It seems like only Jamie and the Hall family can fire her up. When I see them together, I have to remind myself that it's me he loves. That we are having a baby together. But I can't shake the feeling that Hannah would have been a better wife to him than me. That she wouldn't have lied to him like I have. We've been living with Savannah for nearly a month when I received a call from Malene Finch. At first I thought she was ringing about a court date. But I'm ecstatic when she tells me in her crisp, calm voice that arrest has been made. It seems that Sheen Elliott had a lot of doggy dealings and was wanted by some very shady characters. A man that Sheen owed money to was seen in the area around the time Sheen was killed. You and Jamie are free to go back to your flat. I put the phone down, feeling relieved. We can go home. I run to tell Jamie the good news. As much as I enjoy staying at Sylvia's, more than I thought I would, I'll be happy to escape Hannah's hostility in case quiet disgust. She is still barely speaking to me. I deserve her contempt. I know I do. But Jamie and the rest of his family have forgiven me, so why can't she? Because she don't have to? The fuck? That night as we're laying in the bed, Jamie turns to me in the dark, raising himself onto his elbow. His hands trace my stomach where it now gently bulges. You do realize we're going to have to sell the flat, don't you, Lips? Although I'm not sure he can see me in the dark. We can't afford it now. You're no longer working. I'm not making as much as I like yet, but we'll have a bit of equity. We'll have to work farther out, though. Maybe one of the villages on the Bristol side. We can get more for our money there. The prospect of a bigger place away from here fills me with excitement. Maybe somewhere with a garden for Ziggy and Peanut. I think that's a good idea. A new beginning. He props himself to the father. What about the estate agent where Hannah works? They could give us valuation. I don't want to involve Hannah, but I agree nonetheless. If Jamie had asked me to run around the garden naked, I'll do it to make him happy, to keep the equilibrium. By the weekend, we are back in our loft. It smells the same. A slight dog odor mixed with damp washing and something sweet, a sort of erotic incense. Ziggy is pleased to be back in the place where he can, once again, lounge all over the furniture, which he isn't allowed to do at Sylvia's. It feels weird being back, I say as I slump next to Ziggy on the sofa. Everything has changed. We're changed. We're left in such a hurry that we're not had time to clean up the dirty cups on the coffee table, and now green spores of mold cling to the tea at the bottom. It's obvious by the mess that the police had a good look around. Jamie's work cabinet has been emptied, a pile of files left on the floor. The cupboards on our sideboard are yarning open. Melanie told us they had taken some items away for further tests, and the flat now was the air of a burglary about it. Children have been rifling through our things. I'll be glad to sell it. Jamie's standing at the window looking out onto the street above, and know he's probably worrying about who's out there, nameless, faceless men who might be stalking us out, thanks to the porn site. The police had managed to deactivate the site, but it hadn't allayed our fears. Our address had been out there for too long. He sighs. Too much had happened. I can't get my head around it. I know I keep saying it, but I'm sorry, Jay. But it could all been so much worse. What do you mean? I notice the doubt flickering in his eyes as though he's expecting to reveal another secret, another lie. And it makes me feel sad. I caused that. Would things ever go back to how they were? Sheen, what if he had done what he could have done to us? Whoever killed him did us a favor. I shudder at the thought. He had been here, in our home. What had he planned for us? He had stolen money from my account and sent cards to the neighbors pretending to be from Jamie. He had been a twisted individual. For the first time, I realized how it must have been for Beth. No wonder she fled over 5,000 miles to Thailand to escape him. I think he might have killed us, Jamie says, his face troubled. That's why he was watching us at the hideaway. The underwear was obviously some kind of threat. He frowns and then asks his own questions. I guess we'll never know. Something wakes me in the night. A sudden heavy thud coming from the flight above. I sit bolt upright in bed, my heart pounding, my skin hot beneath my night clothes. Jamie continues to snore beside me. I listen carefully to the comforting sounds of our home. The buzzing of the fridge, the clanking of the pipes, the occasional whistle of the car outside. Was I mistaken? I strain my ears. Nothing. I was about to settle back under the duvet when I hear it again, as though something has dropped overhead. My first thought is that Evelyn's flat is being burglarized. I nudge Jamie awake. Jamie, I hiss, there's someone upstairs. He groans and reaches for his phone. The screen lighting up the room. He blinks furiously as his eyes adjust. It's 4 a.m. Did you hear that noise? Someone in Evelyn's flat. Oh God, should we call the police? He's wide awake now. His hair looks comical, standing up on end. I laugh usually, but adrenaline is pumping around my body so fast I feel dizzy. He tilts his head to one side just like Ziggy does and listens. I can't hear anything. My head's still thundering and I press my hand against my chest, willing myself to calm down. It can't be good for the baby. I heard a crash. He runs his hands through his mad hair. There's no one living in Evelyn's flat. Why would someone be up there? Burgling her? I peel the duvet vent back and get out of bed. I stand in the window piercing through the curtains. The street beyond is dark, the rose bush outside our window scratching the glass in the wind. I don't know what I expect to see, but there is nothing except a black cat sauntering across the main road and a dustbin lid on the pavement. Is that what I heard? A dustbin lid clattering to the floor? But that sounded like it come from overhead. Maybe it was my imagination, a symptom of missing Evelyn, of knowing that her flight above is no longer filled with her presence, her little quirks, like the too-loud radio and the tunes from her favorite soap operas drifting through the ceiling. Sometimes I forget she's not up there, pottering her head around, making cups of tea or knitting. Comes out back to bed. Jamie's voice is thick with sleep. It was probably an animal or something. I curl up beside him. His body feels warm. He soon fast asleep again. While I lay in the dark, wide awake. Evelyn's flat is also on the market. Apparently there was a nephew somewhere who made that decision. But as far as I'm aware, all her photos and furniture, her ornaments and clothes, are as they were when she died. I long to go up there, to be amongst her things, in her comfortable sitting room where I always felt safe. Was someone up there now? Or am I being paranoid? After everything that happened over the past few months, I assure myself it really isn't surprising. Should have went up there and seen. We spent all Sunday frantically cleaning the flat, trying unsuccessfully to rid the sofa and the rugs of the smell of dog. I light candles, hoover, dust, tidy. It takes 3 hours. But when it's finished, I feel a sense of achievement. It's finally ready. Tomorrow we can contact an estate agent and begin the process of moving. Jamie takes Ziggy out for his walk while I finish wiping down the kitchen. I also have a doctor's appointment the following day. I calculated I must be about 6 or 7 weeks pregnant, which would explain the queasy feeling I've experienced since Cornwall that isn't just down to anxiety. I try not to think about what we would do for the money now that I'm no longer able to work as a teacher, and I push away thoughts of how much I miss my class in the school, determined to remain a beat. I'm lucky, I know I am. Things will work themselves out, I feel sure of it. I find that I'm humming to myself as I wake down the worktops, and I switch the radio on, scanning the channels for something that I can dance to. The sky is hazy blue. It's warm, but not as hot as it has been. I feel closer to Jamie than I ever have now that there are no laughs between us. He still calls me Libby, which is the way I want it. Karen feels like another person now. I'm jiggling along to Justin Timberlake when I hear the front door slam. It must be Jamie, back early from his walk. I dart into the hallway, happy to see him, and wanted to show him how pretty the flat looks now it has been decluttered and clean. But his face is pinched in worry. What is it? And then I notice Ziggy. He slumped on the floor, his eyes sad. I bend down to him. Ziggy, are you all right, boy? I ruffle his head, but he hardly moves. He lets out a soft whine, and my heart contracts. Jamie unclaps his lead, but he doesn't stand up again. Instead, he crosses so that he's at my level and says, I think we need to take him to the vet, Lips. There's something wrong with him. Ziggy suddenly makes a choking sound, and my face grows hot with panic as he starts conversing, his eyes rolling back in his head. What's happening? I cry, standing up. It looks like he's having a fit. We need to get him in the car. Come on. The vet is open in 24 hours. Ziggy is so heavy that it takes both of us to carry his shuddering body to the car. We lay him on the back seat and I run back into the flat to get a towel and a blanket. When I return, Ziggy no longer convulsing but is still, too still. I climb into the back seat with him and place my hand on his stomach, reassuring when it rises and falls. He's unconscious. Quick, Jay. We need to get to the vet. Right now, I yell. Jamie looks ashen. He pulls away from the curb at speed. And as I glance, I'm certain I saw a shadow at the window, as though someone is watching us from behind Evelyn's yellowing neck curtains. You know who the fuck is watching you. You know who the fuck is watching you. Chapter 35. I've been watching and biding my time. I see the police come and go, and Sheen's body carried out in the bag. I witnessed Farunas comb the garden in the flat. And when I was satisfied the police wouldn't return, when the team dispersed, I moved to Evelyn's flat. I had no choice. I need to make my money last. And the bed and breakfast I've been staying in for the last 6 weeks is too expensive. I must get around to visiting my dad's solicitor to find out if the bastard has left me any money. Seeing Karen's photo in the newspaper distracted me from all that. And then yesterday, there they were, tripping out of their car, all smiles and laughs and cheesy banter as they led their big dopey dog into their flat. Slipping back into their lives as effortlessly as pulling on a pair of favorite jeans. So they allowed her to come home, which means they aren't treating her as a suspect. I know they wouldn't be looking for me. I'm like a ghost the way I come and go, leaving behind no trail. I pay for everything in cash, her cash. It's easy to do damage to someone who thinks I'm dead. I haven't gotten many belongings. I left most of my things behind in Barcelo. I've just got a bag of clothes, my passport, and my phone, and a photo. I took it every night. It's my only reminder of her, my beautiful princess. I sleep upstairs in one of Evelyn's spare bedrooms that she never used, by the look of them. There's a thick layer of dust everywhere, on the picture rails and the coat in the carpet. The air is stale and musty. A for sign has been erected outside the window. It's a bit of a risk staying here where prospect buyers could descend at any time, like mad pats picking their way through the nice old lady's things and clawing over the period features. But it's a small price to pay to be near Karen, because there is more damage to inflict, more pain to cause. She hasn't even begun to suffer enough. This Beth is evil. She's evil. Okay, we almost there, y'all. We is almost freaking here. Almost here. We got epilogue. So we got 43. We on chapter 36. 7 more chapters. We are told Ziggy is in critical condition. I can't stop tears rolling down my face as I kiss him goodbye on the very bit beneath, between his nose and the mouth where his whiskers grow. My favorite bit, I love y'all, whisper to him. We'll be back tomorrow. My heart feels like it's going to break seeing him lying there on the vet's cold metal table, a tube in his paw, his eyes closed. I don't think I can bear it if he dies, I sob, not caring that snot is running from my nose and merging with the tears dripping from my chin onto my cotton blouse. He's not going to die, Jamie insists. He grabs my hand, his feel hot and sticky in mine. He's going to be fine. I can tell he doesn't really believe it by his tight smile and his fake druidity. His eyes are red and he's unable to tear them away from my beloved dog. Our vet Owen comes in wearing green scrubs and holding a towel. He's quite young, although he has an air of calm and authority about him. He's been Ziggy's vet ever since we had him. He'll be in good hands here overnight, he says. Please try not to worry. We'll do all we can. This should flush the poisons out of his systems. I'll ring you if there's any change. Poison? I grip Jimmy's arm tightly as we walk back to the car. He's been poisoned, Jay. Who would do such a thing? I think of the shadowy figure I'm certain I saw in Evelyn's flat. Why can't I shake the feeling that someone is still watching us, despite Sheen Elliott's death? He could have eaten something on our walk, Jamie says. But I was so careful, and he seemed off before we left. Not like his usual self. Quieter, didn't you think? We got into the car and sit for a minute outside the vet's, unable to drive away. It feels wrong leaving Ziggy behind. I touched my stomach. There was only a slight swelling, barely noticeable, but I already feel an overwhelming protectiveness toward this baby. The future stretches in front of me, my earlier hope diminishing, instead replaced by all the dangers that could threaten our precious baby, and I'm seized with anxiety so strong I start to shake. Will I be able to do this? What if something happens again? I don't want to leave him, Liv, says Jamie, his voice sounding pitiful in the silence of the car. He collapsed into tears then, and I stare at him in shock as his shoulders heave. I don't think I've ever seen him properly cry before. Not like this. Not these giant sobs that seem to consume him, and it scares me. I reach out and touch his shoulder, murmuring words of comfort for myself and him. Then he turns and pulls me into his arms, fiercely, and we hug awkwardly over the gear sticks. Despite how uncomfortable it is, we stay this way for ages. The sun is going down by the time we get home, and our side of the street is a shadow. I'm conscious of how puffy my face looks, how red-rimmed my eyes are, and I'm grateful that the street is quiet in the way it is often on a Sunday afternoon. It is cold in the shade, and I shiver in my short-sleeved blouse as Jamie retrieves the door key from his pocket. The flat seems so empty without Ziggy rushing to greet us. I feel a fresh wave of grief when I notice his lead on the floor, where I just left it in our rush earlier, and I pick it up and hug it against me, inhaling the scent. Jamie is bending down to untie his laces when I see the envelope, halfway through the letterbox. It definitely hasn't been there earlier, had it? Even if it had, we wouldn't have noticed. We had been so focused on Ziggy. I pull it out and open it, and straight away I wish I hadn't. The words blur in front of me. Those awful, awful words. What is it says? Asked Jamie, peering over my shoulder. Why have you been sent your medical records? Did you request them? It's nothing. I try to shove the sheets of paper back into the envelope, but they refuse to go, bending in the wrong direction. Libby, what's going on? Nothing. It's nothing. I put the kettle on. I slipped him under my arm and hurried to the kitchen, but he's close behind me. Why are you being so secretive? Why did you request your medical records? How can I tell him that I didn't? I placed them down on the workshop and put the kettle on. When I look around, he's holding them in his hands. I snatched them from him, furious. That's private, I snapped. What the fuck do you think you're doing? Why is she talking? He stares at me, his face full of hurt. Private? You're having our baby. Why can't I see your medical files? You're welcome to see mine. I got nothing to hide. His eyes are hard as he assesses me. Have you? No more lies. That's what I promised him. I'm sorry, I say, swallowing down tears. I suddenly hand him the 3 sheets. Can only watch his eyes scan down the first page, his expression growing darker. When he finished reading, he looks up at me. You had an abortion. I consider lying, telling him these are the real Elizabeth Elliott's medical records, not mine. But there's no point. The dates won't add up. He knows when I stop being Karen Fisher. I nod and look down at my stomach, as though I've been betrayed. I've betrayed the baby growing inside of me. Why? I sighed. I wasn't with the father. I met him in Thailand. Thought I was in love. I didn't know I was pregnant. And then I came back here with a new identity, a new start. I only been at college a month when I realized I was pregnant. I couldn't keep it. It would have meant giving up everything. Why didn't you tell me? I met his eyes. They were dark with disappointment. Because Kate's voice comes back to me as clearly as though she's standing in the kitchen with us. It doesn't mean you're weak to show that you're not perfect, you know. Because I didn't want you to think less of me. I didn't want to tarnish the version of me that you have in your mind, I said truthfully. I'm the person who loves kids, a teacher, and I aborted my baby. And you really think that's how I would have felt? That I wouldn't have understood? I'm not anti-abortion. I wouldn't have thought less of you. It's the lies. I asked you if there was anything else you weren't telling me. You could have told me then, but you didn't. I don't think you're perfect, Libby. I don't expect you to be. He shakes his head, his expression perplexed. What the fuck is going on in your head, Libby? Karen? Whatever your real name is, who the fuck are you? I'm Libby, I cry. I'm your Libby. His jaw said hard as he said slowly, deliberately, no, you're not. He thrust the papers back at me and I gripped them in my chest. I screwed them up, the papers rustling under my fingers. He storms out of the room and I follow, watching silently as he pushes his feet back into the trainers he's just taken off. And then he grabs his jacket from the peg by the door and wordlessly leaves the flat. I cry myself to sleep that night, scrunched up in a ball, the duvet pulled tightly over my head. Jamie comes home late. I hear him crashing into things and wonder if he's drunk. Who's he's been with? His mom? Hannah? When he doesn't come to bed, I gather my dressing gown around me and pad into the living room to see him passed out on the sofa, snoring, still fully clothed. I'm waking the next morning by the sound of the phone. I know instinctively that it's the vet. I listen as Owen gently breaks it to me that Ziggy didn't make it despite all his best efforts, that his heart gave out, and my mobile drops to the floor so the screen cracks across the photograph I have as my wallpaper of me, Jamie, and Ziggy together. One happy family. Damn, she just murdered your dog. Evil! Evil! How dare her! How dare she do that to us? I run to the bathroom and reach into the toilet, resting my head against this is shop 37, by the way, against the rim. The smell of toilet cleaner making me reach again. Ziggy is gone. The enormity of it hits me afresh and the tears creeping down my already puffy face. Then I wake Jamie, my heart heavy that I have to give such awful news. He turns over to his back. He smells of stale sweat and last night alcohol. I don't want to talk to you, he says, closing his eyes. Jay, it's Ziggy. His eyes snapped open. They are bloodshot, sticky in the corners. What? He says, so what is it? I can feel the tears running down my face. He didn't make it. No! His voice breaks, and despite our differences, I put my arms around him as he cries into my shoulder. Later, after Jamie has showered and shaved, he sits on the sofa as far away as he can get from me. The distance hurts. We always sat touching one another with some part of our bodies, our toes, our fingers, our thighs. He clears his throat. Listen, while you were getting dressed, I called Owen. We know Ziggy was poisoned, but we don't know with what. It was obviously heavy duty, though, to kill him. He whines as he says that last bit. I can't help but think someone did this on purpose. My scalp prickles. What? It's more than him eating some berries or a fog of lips. He had a large amount in his blood, enough to cause cardiac arrest. I told Owen about Sheen, about everything. I worried that Sheen wasn't acting alone. I can't take this in, but who? Did Beth have any other enemies? Did you? Who else were you traveling with? I shrugged. I hardly knew the others really, apart from Harry. Although, after what he did with Beth, maybe I didn't know him either. He was the person I thought he was. He wasn't the person I thought he was. We traveled together for a few months, but why would they do something like this? He frowns. Are you sure? What about the guy who got you pregnant? His words are sharp, piercing my heart, and I whine. Harry wouldn't do something like this. Why would he? What? How? No wonder he was running away from her. You were pregnant with his child? You left him and had an abortion? I cast my eyes downward, fiddling with my wedding band. He never knew. He probably doesn't even remember my surname. I was probably just one of many. He clears his throat and shuffles, avoiding eye contact. There's something else. Something I haven't told you yet. I only found out myself on Friday. I was waiting for the right time, but then, with Ziggy, he pauses, his voice cracking. What? What happened? What? What do you want to tell me? I don't want to scare you, but I checked the bank. That money? It was taken after we got back from Cornwall. Shane was already dead then. What? I can't believe I'm hearing this. Shane didn't take the money? He couldn't have. And the stuff from the catalog? These things were done afterwards. The website, though, that was done before. That must have been Sheen. Plus, the website would have taken a while to set up. I clenched my hand. It feels like it's spiraling. It's spinning. This was supposed to be a happy time. My first year of marriage, expecting a baby. How can it all gone so wrong? Jamie fidgets the way he does when he's worried about something, about asking me something. What is it? Is there any way? He hesitates and runs a hand over his stubble. Do you think that there's any way Beth didn't die in a hostile fight? I shake my head. Absolutely not. I can't admit to him why I'm so sure. There is no way she could have survived it. I told you before. She was in her... Because you drugged her. You drugged her. You know why the fuck she was fast asleep. Because you drugged her and you took her bag. You want to make it seem like, oh, you didn't know you took her bag. You knew you took her fucking bag. You knew you was stealing her identity. You knew this when you was running away from her. Definitely after you found out she drugged you and she had drugged Henry and she was doing dirty shit. Did you know the fight was going to happen? Probably not. But you most definitely drugged her because you was trying to get away from her. And that's why you thought she was dead. Because you drugged her and you had drugged her to the motherfucking extent that she shouldn't have been able to get up and move. So now you lied to him again. She was in the room fast asleep. I only survived because I was already outside. But you said there was other survivors. I rang around to all the hospitals. I went back to the hospital next morning. Nothing. I wrapped my dressing gown farther around my body, suddenly feeling cold. Look, Jay, I know you're feeling dreadful about Ziggy. I am too, but we can't assume Ziggy was poisoned on purpose. That somebody set out to kill him. Maybe I don't want to believe it. I can't have Ziggy's death on my conscience too. The other stuff was more opportunistic. Maybe whoever killed Sheen had a snoop out about our flat and took some bank statements in order to rip us off. I reached over and placed my hand on his. I just wanted all behind us, Jay. This has all been so awful. Losing Ziggy, my job, but we're going to have a baby. He shakes my hand off and stands up. I can't. I'm sorry. I need time. I'm seized by fear. He seems so angry, so unreachable. I'm losing him. Okay, I'll mumble. But I'm sorry. For the last, I love you. I want to earn your trust back. He picks at something on his neck and doesn't look at me. Instead, his eyes are trained on a beige carpet that could do with the cleaning. His shoulders slumped. He looks broken. I long to put him back together, but he won't let me. I don't want to leave you on your own in a flat, but I need some time by myself. I'm going to work for Mom's during the day. I'll come back at night so you're not alone. He folds his hands into his lap. He doesn't look at me as he says quietly, but lips, I'm not sure I can forgive you for lying to me again. Because first of all, he told you not to lie to him again. You could have just gave him the all. And not only that, you still lying to him because you still got fucking secrets. So I'm hoping that I can wrap this up with 2 more videos. And then I promise that that will be it for today. Okay?